The Far Cry series has been near and dear to my heart for the better part of half a decade, ever since I was like 10 or 11 and played my first Far Cry game. The pirated version of Far Cry 3 I somehow got on my terrible 4GB RAM laptop and got working. I fell in love with the game and the series. Now at 10 and 11, I probably wasn't supposed to be playing something like that, but it was one of the few games that really immersed me in the story and gameplay and just the world of the game. The game was encapsulating and see, it looked good for the time. It was just immersive and a very good experience to play. And I'd hoped that I could play the past Far Cry's like Far Cry 2 and the first Far Cry, and I really hoped that I could also get the chance to play the future ones like Far Cry 4 and Far Cry 5, because at the time it was like 2016, 2017 and I didn't really have a PS4 or any like good hardware to play the newer games that were coming out. But with me being a dumb young boy, I thought that with each next Far Cry game that would come out after 3, that it would follow the same trend as 3 and just get better and better.
You serious?
After every release, and I really hoped that was how it would be, because with Far Cry 4, which had come out like in 2014 before I even played my first Far Cry game, it seemed it was going to follow the same trend and trajectory of Far Cry 3 and just constantly improving and being an engaging and fun game. What I would say though is that Far Cry 4 did follow up nicely to Far Cry 3, even though it's not really held up to the same high regard as 3. I'd say it's still a pretty good game by today's standards. It's pretty fun. It's basically just like Far Cry 3 but bigger and better. It looks better, it plays better, and it's on PS4 and it's on next gen, so yeah, I'd say it still holds up to today. However, it did improve on a bunch of things, with it being on the PS4 now, having less technical limitations and having a bigger map and more stuff to do, more side missions and more places to explore, more vehicles to drive, newer ways of transport. We had the wingsuit and we had like a gyrocopter or something that we were flying around in, and it seemed really fun and just like, you know, really being an open world and just letting you do things on this island. And I'd say there were also multiple endings to the game that we found and we've all seen on like top 10 lists, top 10 secret game endings you didn't know about, where you just sit at the table and if you wait long enough the game can end, because at the start of the game you're supposed to sit at the table, wait for Pagan Min to bring something or something like that, then he comes back like after 10 minutes in real life, and then the game can just end there. And it was fun to include, and it was nice to have players find that. It was nice that the developers thought of that and put it in as like a secret Easter egg, and that's one thing I really enjoyed about it and really miss about the old Far Cry games. Although I'd say with my experience it had the same problem that Far Cry 3 had, which was that like after the first half of the story and us like fighting Vass, thinking like he's the main villain we have to get past, it kind of felt like the other antagonist after Vass being killed, which to me felt like it was just shocking to me that we actually got to kill him that fast. And the other antagonist really didn't feel like on the same level as Vast. Felt like he wasn't really that in depth, he didn't really have that many layers. He was very shallow and forgettable.
Who?
I don't even remember his name, I just remember that they used to wear yellow or something. And I'd say that still kind of plays Far Cry 4, because with Far Cry 4 it was like what I just said. After the first half of 3 and killing Vass, the villain just kind of fell flat. So it felt like that, but now the whole game where it was just like this generic villain ruling over this small island, or trying to take over it, or trying to do something with it, just being, you know, evil, a bad guy, not really having many deeper motives other than that. And I don't know if it's from me and me just being a dumb guy, not really knowing how to read into subtext and context clues or anything like that, but that's what it felt like to me. It felt like it was just another generic villain. It didn't really have anything interesting to offer. So that's why I'd say like of Far Cry 4 isn't really held to the same high regard, but it is still up there. It's still a fun game, and it's, to be honest, it's a bit underrated for my liking, because it deserves to be higher, because it just has the same formula as Far Cry 3, just upgraded down to the PS4. So I'd say it's still good. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that the Far Cry games after 3 or 4 maybe have just mostly been, like, for me, a 6 or a 7 out of 10 games, and 7 being on the higher side. So I'd say they've been mid games with good enough gameplay and story to keep you engaged at the time, but not really stick and be memorable for you when you turn off the game, when you save and quit. It doesn't really have that effect on me. For me, where they are enjoyable but still have some underlying issues, whether it's the story not really being good or just gameplay bugs that completely take someone out of the experience and are not expected in what Ubisoft claims to be a AAA game. And although I did enjoy the story of Far Cry 5, even though it felt like we were like a secondary protagonist, like we were just like, I know you've seen those videos of a second person game, it felt like that, because it didn't feel like we were the other protagonist in Far Cry 4 and 3, where it was just like a one-man army trying to wreck everything that these guys are doing. Because in 5 it was us and like a couple sheriffs, and I think what really contributed to that was like the type of RPG elements they tried to add and implement into the game. So I'd say, like, whether dialogue options, I don't remember, but like dialogue options, I'd say, so going around talking to NPCs, having companions, and also I'd say they're creating a character, which really just showed me that Ubisoft didn't really have any writers that wanted to make another complex character that was good to fit in with the story of Far Cry 5, that the player can take on and take the role of and see the world through the eyes of this one character, and interact with everyone as this one character. So they just made it so you can self-insert yourself and have your own opinions and morals. But what I did like though was Far Cry 5 returned and this had more endings than ever in any Far Cry game, which was nice, because they also had multiple antagonists, some which are forgetful and some which are hard to forget, and some endings were just very crazy. Especially for me, the craziest ending was I don't really remember which one it was, but it was the one where I think we lost, the protagonist lost or something. We weren't able to stop the bad guy, the antagonist's plan, but we kind of were. We arrested him, but the plan was already in motion, so we couldn't really do anything else other than that. And it ended with, I think, with the map being nuked, and just like what led to the other spin-off game after Far Cry 6 moved on. So that was the canon ending, I think, where they just nuked the whole place we were at, and I thought that was pretty cool and pretty interesting, because I just expected it to be like, we get the bad guy, we disarm the nuke, everyone, and we go home. But it was nice though. Another RPG element I didn't really like was, I can't really remember, but I think there was a skill tree and stuff, but that's always been there since Far Cry 3, where we could have like a skill tree of different takedown moves, chaining things together and just upgrading that, and like upgrading reload times and things of that, and things of that nature. So I can't really fault it for having that in the game. But what I can say is that it was hardly focused on as much, and I believe that allowed room for the developers to focus more on writing the game in Far Cry 3, which I think makes it good, and making in-game sequences and such. And I'd see the inverse for it for Far Cry 5, where they really tried to gamify it a lot and just focus more on the RPG stuff, just more on that type of era where everything was battle passes and just monetizing everything. So it made it hard to make the game really engaging and immersive and just impressive. So the most recent game, Far Cry 6, I personally feel like, other than like Far Cry Primal and New Dawn, I feel like it may be the lowest point in the series. I see that because New Dawn and Primal aren't really like the main numbered series that they push out. So I'd place this Far Cry 6 as the lowest point in the series. I say this because somehow on the newest generation, the PlayStation 5, having all those technical abilities and all those huge leaps in graphics, gameplay mechanics, and just all these different features that developers can use to really enhance the experience have just been overlooked with this game. Even the graphics, I'd say so. I'd say somehow the graphics look worse than the past games, which were on worst hardware, so that doesn't really make sense, and that just shows like how the passion for the game hasn't really increased, but rather like they've stopped caring. They haven't really put time and effort into making use of the PlayStation's hardware and really pushing it to its limitations. And they still want us to believe that they are putting out AAA, quadruple A games, and it's like this particular phase and remake game. Something else that really makes me question what's going on is the AI. So the AI doesn't really feel that good. It feels like the AI is dumb or overpowered, or just like the AI logic isn't there, and it's worse than before, and it honestly doesn't feel like much thought was really put into anything that they were doing. They just had to put out another Far Cry game because people like me are out here and we're waiting for our favorite franchises to be brought back. Even though they got a great actor in Giancarlo Esposito to play the main villain, I feel like he was very underutilized and very overlooked, which is like the biggest fumble you could do with someone of that caliber, who has won, or is supposed to in my mind, win multiple Emmys and just multiple awards. He's a great actor. I think that, to be honest, I can't really blame him. What I can blame though is it's the writing that fails him. It's the writing that really fails to make the character and fails to make him intriguing and feel like a part of the story other than just the main bad guy we have to kill. And it really doesn't help him set and stand apart from all the other antagonists we've had, or forgettable because of their characters and missions and just things being repetitive and boring. So that's what I think. So after all that yapping I've just done about the background and stuff, I know you're asking yourself, why is this video called How Far Cry Lost Its Identity? Well, let me tell you. So from my perspective, and just what I think, is that at some point during the development of these games, Ubisoft lost the plot and motivation to make these games good and fun, and surpass the point of just being an average game that people love but they overlook. It's not really on the big tiers of making like big money, having like billions of people loving the game, and it just feels like a lot of wasted potential that this series has had. Because I feel like after Ubisoft makes a series that is successful and loved, like let's say Assassin's Creed, like they can make a great Assassin's Creed game and it will just stick in the minds of the fans and people will love it. Like they can make a great Ghost Recon game and people will love it, but then once they see that success, they already know they have a dedicated fan base that will love to see more games from this specific franchise, and they're still going to buy it. And I'm not saying that the games that I mentioned in those series are bad, I'm just saying that it feels like more lazier and just like not really caring about them as much. Okay, so let's talk about how Far Cry 3 fails to live up to its predecessors, specifically more Far Cry 3, because I've played 3 the most and haven't really played 6. So what feels different? Well, for one, the games are nearly a decade apart, and things are bound to change obviously. Like for instance, the gunplay feels a bit weird now how it was in 3, where guns didn't really have ratings and all those other RPG elements and all those crazy guns. We didn't have like those guns that they introduced in Far Cry 5 and 6, like the Buzzsaw gun and just crazy makeshift guns and stuff like that. Also, the saying of less is more is true in this case. I prefer 3's UI, where the HUD and user interface isn't really just bloated with things that are just overstimulating you, like health bars over enemies and like hit counters, and then we have ammo for you and health, which it feels like too much. I'd rather have like a more minimal UI where we have the ammo for the gun you're carrying, and then we have like just a tiny section where it shows the health and the minimum, and that's it. That's what I prefer. And I'd also like to remove the hit counters and the health bar on top, just to give it more of an immersive and like realistic feeling, even though like obviously these games aren't really that realistic, and it makes me feel like I'm actually starting to be in the island, like I'm a foreign person in this island and just trying to make it and survive. So something else that different that I noticed was the cutscenes and just like the interactivity between them. So in Far Cry 3 we didn't really have like third-person cutscenes. We were stuck to the first-person perspective, I think due to limitations and just like constraints of not having to make like this big cutscene and including like all the characters in it and having to make models for Jason outside, but somehow they made it feel more alive when we did cutscenes in first person. We felt like the actual character and felt more not realistic, but felt more interactive. And they did this by having like lots of hand movement. You see down, the camera moves around, and it just induces like the feeling that the character is experiencing right now, and just helps you stay more immersed and more engaged with the story and what's happening. Like one of my favorites was one of the scenes where Jason infiltrated like the other antagonist's name, I think his name was Holt or something, and he was like a soldier and they had captured like his younger brother. So he was in a holding cell and they were trying to get information out of it. So while they're Jason and the contact inside the paramilitary or whatever were there in the cell with Jason's brother, and we had to physically like torture Jason's brother to try and get information out of it. So we just had to do like a few quick time things, but it felt very interactive and very like, are we really going to torture our own brother just to try and kill this guy, which we don't have any history with, which we don't really have any say in? We're just here just to stop this guy for no reason. It just happened to be like this, and we're trying to get everyone and just get out of the island. So do we really need to torture our brother, even though there is a camera in there? So we have to like play on both sides. We have to like torture him, and then Jason goes and tells him like just a few more seconds, then like we'll get out of here or something. So yeah, that's one thing I really liked, and it really gave a sense of urgency, the way Jason adjusts a lot and moves around a lot, and the camera moves with him as you're in first person, so you're moving as him. So yeah, it just felt very good and very like natural. So I'd say that's the biggest thing that I liked about the cutscenes in Far Cry 3. Whereas opposed to Far Cry 6, even like in side missions in Far Cry 3, you're still being very interactive, being very like not thrown out of the experience. So in Far Cry 6, I'd say like there's points where the person is shifted to third person to see the whole scene, and while that is good, it's just like the scene isn't really scripted that well and doesn't really hold anything, and it feels kind of lifeless with the models not being really expressive as they can be. So that's what I'd say. So going along with that, the story of Far Cry 6 also feels more broad, in the sense that the main villain is producing cure for cancer or something, but also doing something else with the plant that's evil, and just feels on a more broad scale, which to me feels like since 3 we have deviated from just like it being a localized, just us on an island and just us versus the gorillas on the island. So it doesn't really feel like it's personalized. It feels like we're trying to save the world, which I mean, you can make it work, but they didn't make it work in this case, so it doesn't really have the same effect and we're also leading a revolution to try and overthrow the government, which I like. I want to go out, I want to go recruit citizens, people who believe in the movement, and just actually do it and do the revolution and overthrow the government. I think it's a good idea, but to me, with the way that Ubisoft did it, it's not like as multi-layered as it could be, because we also have this side plot of the main villain's son not really like wanting to take over like after dad dies or whatever, or being instated into like the next ruler and keep doing what he's doing. So it kind of feels like trying to do something but not really. I see just like remove that whole part and just leave it to the revolution and focus more on what the main villain is doing, and just like focus on writing that in a way that makes it like make sense and makes it like engaging in a way. And then like at the end, let's see, like we learn he has a son, so like he has like a successor to like his throne and plans, so we have to like also take out all the advisors so that he has good guidance, or maybe we can overthrow the government and then instate ourselves in the places and have those advisors, but still have this guy's son take over and just guide it and guide Yara to like a better position and more peaceful and more stable than it was. So that's just me thinking. I don't know, it might be dumb, but anyway, so talking about the story, I like to compare it to Far Cry 5 story, but I don't really remember it that well. So we're basically like a sheriff deputy. We come into like this kind of small town, or like something, yeah, like a small town, and there's this cult that's going around. It's a religious cult, and they're talking about like end of world, end of days, stuff of that nature, and people are like starting to believe them, and the cult just does like heinous things. They rule over the whole town, and they just have control over it. I don't really remember the story well, but either way, I'd say that what I do remember is that the story was more interesting, in the vein that the main villain was also more interesting than the one we have now. So it was just very engaging, because we are coming at it from a different perspective, where we have this cult that's trying to like activate some nukes and, you know, just bring the end of days. So I'd say that was more interesting, but still good concepts from Far Cry 6 and 5, but 5 just did it a bit better. 6 hasn't really like gone to the full length to really detail what's going on, to put it in a way that will just keep you playing the game and keep going to the next objective. On top of that, for me, Far Cry 6 can also get a bit buggy from time to time. That's not saying much, seeing as it's a Ubisoft game. That's kind of expected, but it gets like very buggy. So like I'd say like more buggy than usual, so sometimes like game breaking glitches that just soft lock you to the state where it's unplayable and you have to like restart and boot up everything. So I don't know if that's due to my hardware or just my personal experience or what, but that's just my experience though. But on the gameplay aspect though, both games are open world and you can explore and do side missions and do your own thing and just put the main story missions to the side for a while. But where the difference is for me, I feel is in the weapons and gadgets features, and the features added like the backpacks, the weird what I don't know what they're called, the backpacks, whatever, and horse mounted combat, which I think the horse mounted combat is a good idea. Like I've always wanted to ride like a horse in Far Cry 3 and the series in general, and like maybe ride a bear or something and just do that, which sounds cool, but doesn't really feel like these additions add anything substantial to the game, just give us more incentive to play. So it doesn't really feel like it makes me want to play the game more. And see that Another problem I have that's just been happening is like there's not really a lot of wild animal encounters that I've gotten, where like wild animals like in Far Cry 3, I just be walking and a tiger would appear out of nowhere and just like attack me, and it happened a lot since we were on an island. And now in 6 I kind of get it, since we're like in a more like country city setting, so it's not really supposed to be a lot of attacks, but I'd say they were good fun, albeit a bit frustrating and just annoying at times. So yeah. But overall, this is just how I feel about the two separate games that have been compared. One of my past favorite developers, publishers, 6 just felt lackluster compared to the previous Far Cries, whether it's in the story or world or the game. It just doesn't feel as atmospheric or as good as the other games, in my opinion. Yeah, so that's all I have to say for that. All I can think of is I truly hope that Ubisoft can somehow get that passion back, get the things that made them big in the first place, and do that on just a bigger scale and a better scale, and one that's actually enjoyable, actually worthy of being AAA or quadruple A, and something that I can see this is the Ubisoft I knew growing up, and this is the one that I fell in love with. And yeah. Okay, so that's gonna be it for the video. So if you did enjoy the video, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and yeah, subscribe so I can feed my family, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.